It's the original BMW SUV. Pardon me, SAV. They like the word activity instead of utility. Regardless, it's now in its heavily refreshed third generation. So let's drive this 2014 BMW X5 xDrive30d, count the letters in its nameplate, and check the tech. Now, I find this Gen 3 car the best looking X5 yet because they've retained the chunky, substantial look that is X5, but they've also sculpted it better than ever and really given it a lot of car-like face. It really looks a lot like the most desirable BMW cars in the front. I couldn't say that about an X5 in the past. Easy way to spot a Gen 3 X5 is to look at the fenders. On both the front fenders, you'll find this kind of long blade-like cutout that looks right through to the tire. They call that the air curtain. It's about managing airflow from the face of the car across the face of the wheel with minimal aerodynamic disruption. Underneath that giant panoramic glass roof, you'll find much nicer available rear seats that can have heating, finally, fancier upholstery, 10 degrees of recline, and 3 inches of fore aft adjustment. That's all new. Little third row seats are optional, but if you do get those, you can't get the fancy second row seats I just mentioned. Now inside our X5, things haven't changed a lot. You're going to recognize the iDrive interface. It's very familiar, and it's mounted in this 10.2-inch ultra-wide screen that is in the current fashion, mounted like so. It doesn't go up and down, though it looks like it, and it's a very clear, well-rendered display. Nothing too different there. It's not a touchscreen, of course. The Germans don't go for that. Instead, you've got the latest iDrive controller with a bunch of home run buttons around it, a larger knob for turn, click, and kick, and it's a touchpad on top for handwriting recognition, for directional moves, or also for pinch and zoom on your map level. Now, where they have made some nice streamlining improvements is in voice command. Check it out. FM.
FM.
102.1.
You're listening to 102.1 FM.
That is super clean and intuitive. I didn't have to spend any time learning what it wanted me to say. So many other cars would have you say, radio, tuning mode, change to something frequency. Shoot me, I'm going to grab a knob by then. This is very humanistic. Similarly clean for address entry. Enter address, 235 2nd Street, San Francisco, California.
Processing your input. 235 2nd Street.
Now, I can also get to my destination through BMW Online, which is a separate search utility, but it works differently. It takes you to a different voice recognition platform done in the cloud. I can also go to Wiki Local to find where I want to go, and that's another experience. And here, there's no voice recognition. So I've got multiple ways to address multiple interfaces to all serve the same basic idea of finding where I want to go. This is where things like CarPlay and Android Auto are going to find low-hanging fruit. Clean up this mess that occurs in so many vehicles. These are not the only guys that do it. Wrong.
Apps are via a cabled phone only, not wirelessly. Facebook and Twitter are heavily cleaned up and usable in a limited way. Audible books, Glimpse location sharing, Rhapsody music, and TuneIn radio streaming are all on the way. Meanwhile, general Bluetooth streaming handles the rest, including the obvious omission of Pandora.
And by the way, radio includes AM, FM, and HD radio. However, satellite radio doesn't get in there unless you let BMW twist your arm and sell you a $2,700 premium package. My X5 will not have satellite radio for that reason. Now, when I put our car in reverse, you're going to notice all I've got are sensors front and rear. No rear camera on this car. There's even an around view camera. That's optional, I get it. But on a car of this price category, they're going to nickel and dime me for a rear camera? That doesn't work with me. Of course, federal law is going to take care of that soon enough. In the meantime, prepare to get insulted. Now, here in the engine room is one of the great engines in manufacturing right now. In fact, it's arguably the best inline-six ever made. This is BMW's N55. It's an awarded motor. The twin-power turbo technology is the first thing you want to call your attention to. It has a single turbocharger, but with 2 scroll phases for low and high RPM, coupled with direct injection, as is the fashion these days, and BMW's Valvetronic, which is a very sophisticated variable valve technology that also takes over the throttle functions in this engine. The numbers: 300 horsepower, 300 pound-feet of torque. It goes out in rear-wheel drive fashion base on these cars, which is new for this generation, but of course we have all-wheel drive here. 0 to 60 for this roughly 4,800 pound vehicle is 6.2 seconds. That is 0.2 faster than the outgoing vehicle, and by the way, 170 pounds lighter on this one as well. Your MPG ends up being at 1827. That's actually pretty good. It used to be 1623 the year before. So lots of improvements have happened here in terms of performance and efficiency. And of course, a one-choice only automatic transmission, but it comes in two modes, the base and a sport automatic. Now, of course, BMWs have this rocker switch for various drive modes. You start at the bottom at Eco Pro, you go to Comfort, which is like normal, you've got a Sport mode, and you've got a Sport Plus, where they're taking the traction control largely out of the picture. So those are your four ranges, and you can see they affect things like throttle response, shift points. It will affect your adaptive suspension if you option it, and it's also going to affect your steering feel. But of all of these, you might think I'm going to be totally gaga for Sport Plus or something. Seen it 100 times. What really intrigues me is actually Eco Pro. I'm not normally a big fan of Eco modes because they dumb the car down too much. But this one's interesting. It, of course, mutes back the throttle response, softens up your shift points a bit. It also tells you to back off the throttle with an indicator here if you're goosing it too much. It's going to demand auto start-stop be enabled, which I'm not a huge fan of. It will also freewheel or decouple the engine from the drivetrain when you lift off and coast. It lets the car glide more and have reduced friction that's pulling its momentum down. It will choose more efficient routes when you're under navigation. And it will also coach you to lift off the throttle as you go into a corner or into a reduced speed zone ahead. It's quite complex and, of course, combines with the regenerative braking that's on this car, as well as older BMW tricks like using on-demand rotating accessories that only drag on the engine when they need to, and we have electric power steering, so there's no electric power steering pump being parasitic. The last part of your sport display is here in the iDrive display, which gives you a power and torque readout. Not really useful, but kind of puts you in more of a sporting mode. And on these all-wheel drive cars, you have an xDrive status indicator that will show you how the power or torque distribution is being worked around the four wheels. I'm not sure what you're going to do with that information, but it's a nice animation. Now, the X5 has all the BMW traits on the road that you'd expect. The power is very good in this vehicle. They've dialed out a lot of turbo lag with that twin-scroll, twin-power technology they've been using for a number of years now. Because we have the M Sport package, we have the Sport automatic transmission. Our automatics are the only choice on this car. No DSGs, no manuals. And I find it's a very alert gearbox. Whether you're on the stick or on the paddles doing your shifting, or just in sport mode, it's on the ball. And the shifts are crisp without being jarring. It's a well-done automatic. Now, the one deal you make with the devil when you get a BMW is you're buying a certain stern ride quality. These are never cosseting cars, with the exception of a few models. But basically, you're talking about riding a very firm underpinning all the time in these vehicles. It's part of the BMW DNA. It's not for everyone, to be honest. The other interesting thing is the Last Mile app, which allows you to go from when you park to walking to your exact final destination with guidance, and also taking you back to where you parked your car. Now, pricing an X5 is like pricing most premium German cars. Get a cup of coffee and pull up a comfortable chair. We're going to be here a while. First of all, the base price with destination and the most basic interior is $57,500. M Sport package is $4,600. 19-inch wheels, M Sport steering wheel, the Sport automatic transmission, sportier seats. Dynamic handling is $3,600, which includes the rear torque vectoring technology, active roll control, and full adaptive suspension. But if you want the rear air suspension, that's $900 more. A lighting package with LED headlights and automatic high beams that steer is $1,900. Driver assistance is $1,400 for a rear camera and a HUD. Driver assistance plus is $1,900 for blind spot, lane departure, and front crash partial braking. And if you want adaptive cruise and the stop and go in everyday traffic, that's $1,200 more. And we're not even done yet. Parking assistant is $500. Comfort rear seats, kind of a bargain at $500. Harman Kardon surround sound is $875. I won't even kid you with $4,500 for Bang & Olufsen. Night vision with pedestrian detection is $2,600 of probably the least useful dollars you'll ever spend, and that requires the cold weather package for some reason, so add $550 for that. Skip the $2,200 rear seat entertainment system, which is lame, and you're almost broke now anyway, and do $190 for a pair of iPad holders. Whew, all in, we're at about $78,200. I'm going to skip another several thousand worth of trim options and take the car just the way it is.